Looking at the world condition, people that I know, how pretentious they
Knowing
are.
him that he knows the word of God.
You have to be real to yourself, and that's exactly what church is about.
People walk into church, they go through this transformation.
And it really had a beacon of truth to it that I saw in no other movies or really stories that I had really read.
And everybody needs a real live dose of reality.
What's going on in the world, what's going on in church, and what's going on, period. Ask the Reverend point blank.
When I was a child, I used to, I was raised up selling LPs and 8-track tapes on the streets, doing my little hustle thing, So I never got caught up in the riffraff, although I sold to the riffraff. I saw the riffraff. I dealt with them at a young age. I had a much older woman at a young age. And at this point, I'm starting to look at what am I doing? Because all I was really doing was chasing money, chasing things, trying to have a nice car, try to have, some nice things or some property and some cash in my pocket, you know what I mean? Well, and a nice lady. So that's pretty much all I was ever doing. And I had no problem getting the things I wanted to get. It was just always, let's get this, let me get this. I'm gonna work to have this, I'm gonna make this happen, I'm gonna make that happen. This went on for 15 or 20 years in my life. So you begin to do something like that for so long, and then you think to yourself, why? Because once I chase this thing and I grab it, I'm going to be wanting to chase something else. Never being satisfied with what I consider in my life now true happiness. So the key is I was always searching for something like satisfying my flesh or my senses. Well, that feel good, that look good, oh, that sound good, that smell good, that tastes good. And as soon as something else happened, regardless of the kids or regardless of the circumstances, you'd move on to something else that looked good or tastes good or smell good. So this went on for a long time with me. And then particularly when I left the hustle street game and I went to call myself going to God. I'd raised up in the Baptist church, religious type thing, and grandfather was a preacher. Family raised you up as Christian people, I was selling drugs. I was selling cocaine on the street. After me and my old man my stepfather did a lot of things with merchandise, the record business, and after that I was selling drugs out of the taxi. And I don't know, one day I went by his place, and it's a long story, but that night I left because I didn't want to be in Chicago anymore. It was too cold. So I just left and went to Memphis. But they called him and the police raided his place. Mm-hmm. They came in, they busted him down, and he must have had 40 or 50 keys of cocaine in there. Mm-hmm. But they arrested him for gun running. So I'm driving, I get to Memphis, I get me a hotel room because I'm tired, and I wake up and I see this brother on TV being arrested for gun running. I just left his crib the night before. Okay. So it was, and then I got immediately in my car and I went straight to Texas, and I went straight to God. I went right into the ministry of learning who God was, and I became a preacher, and this went on for 12 years in Texas. Okay. During that time, he did 10. He got out, and they caught him again, and he went back. Wow. For another 10. So I said, well, if they're gonna catch me, because they had to know who I was, they don't have to get me from God. So in my element, okay, I'm tired of all this street hustling, this chasing things. Let me find out what this thing really is. So I started pastoring a church. I was assistant pastor under J.B. Horton, and then I started pastoring a church for several years. And then I realized this don't make no sense, because during that time I was going to acting school while I was, attending, pastoring a church. And when I graduated from both several months apart, it seemed like both of them was the same thing. The church was just like the acting. Okay. And it was like a big old game. So I had to decide what I was going to do, how I was going to find out what I needed to know. And I took off and I went to LA. Okay. Cause I was like, the church they were so hypocritical in the things that they say, contradictory to the things that they do. You know, they say one thing and do something else. One day, Sunday, you see them in the church and it's one thing, and then you see them somewhere else and it's something different. And this had become contagious to the church in my mind as I seen it. And I just didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore.
Do you feel it was just at that one particular church, or all churches were like that?
It was like this. Every church, there are many, including the pastor, who don't live, they have two separate and distinct personalities. One they use inside the church, one they use around their girlfriend, one they use in their jobs, and the one that they use when they get doing the other things that they do.
Okay.
And I couldn't figure out this whole God thing, because I kept saying, well, God is almighty, all-knowing, he the first, last, beginning, and end, Alpha and Omega. But why he make this angel that he know gonna be a jackass? And then why I'm thinking about it, God, why you put them trees in the garden when you already knew they were gonna eat from both? So I concluded in my mind that he was giving you a choice, even though he may have known, or she may have known, or they may have known what your decision was going to be, or what it was that they set up. They gave you a choice. Right. The only way for you to learn is to go through things. If you don't listen, if you become hard-headed, or some people just need to go through things to find out what it really is, despite what other folks say. Right. So I went through that. And then I met this girl while I was in LA. I met in Aruba, and I moved to Europe. And really, when I began to see the difference in my spiritual walk with God and what they considered a spiritual walk in the United States and where I'd been raised here, it was different. Because when I was over there, they let me say what I wanted to say on stage. They let me be. And I was just cussing people out. I don't know if it was the accent or what, but they let me say everything I wanted to say. So one day, at the end of one of my tours, I got off the train, call it a tram, and I stepped in the center. There's a center. There's a street, a center street, and then the buildings, sidewalks and buildings. I saw this plant. And I stopped. I'm in the middle of the street, right where the trams are, but there's a little grass patch there, and this one little plant stood out, and I'm looking at it for like 20 minutes. I couldn't stop looking at it. It overwhelmed me. And I'm not a botanist, like I'm all excited about, flowers, but at the moment I asked myself, I wonder what kind of seed created this plant. I was soaking wet. Now it's 70 degrees, the sunshine on both sides of the street, but I was soaking wet down to my shoes, squishing when I was walking. So I went across the street, I got into the hotel, checked into the hotel, and I went upstairs, took off all my clothes, got butt naked. And I closed my eyes and I started writing. The little pad they leave you with the little glass and the ink pad and paper. Right. And I started writing. And about halfway through my writing, I knocked the glass off the table and it fell off the table and broke. And I got up and had a real orgasm. Not like a physical orgasm, but it was a real spiritual and a mental orgasm. So I sat back down and started writing again. And when I opened my eyes, this is what I had written. The first part was, the best that life has to offer is right now. In a moment, it'll be gone, never to return again. Just like that. Second part, your words and your deeds are your seeds. The hearts of people is the different ground. What's in their head is the weather. But you must first know what you want to grow in your life. You can't yell at a tree that you allowed in your yard. I had a show that night, and that after reading that, I couldn't do my show. First of all, I claimed to be sick. But I didn't want to now go out and say things that were my words and my deeds. I needed to, and so it went on for about 3 months. I didn't do any comedy. Then I got on my knees and I asked God, I said, God, well, you tough. You almighty, you all knowing, you the first, last, beginning, and end, you Alpha and Omega. Well, if you all that, I need you to do something for me.
Okay.
I said, I need you to put me in front of 10,000 people with 10,000 different languages, from 10,000 different countries with 10,000 different cultures and 10,000 different problems, and let me speak one sermon to them and solve everybody's needs. You bad.
Okay.
And at that moment, it came to my mind what that stuff that I had written based on the question that I had just asked. Your words and your seeds are your deeds. Your words and your seeds are your words and your deeds are your seeds. Which meant that when I looked at that plant, there was a seed that made that plant what it was. Like fruits, vegetables, minerals, vitamins, and oxygen that govern the earth. Without that, we would not be alive.
That's right.
So when I thought about if I plant an apple seed in the ground where the ground is good and the weather's right, I'm going to get a whole tree of apples.
That's right.
And being that that is the element that keeps me alive, I was realizing that, okay, one day I'm going to die. And when I go back in the ground, over time, people going to be eating me. I'm going to be fruits, vegetables, minerals, vitamins, and oxygen to this planet. This is the natural element of what I see based on the laws that govern the earth. So after I looked at that and I started thinking to myself, wow. Well then God, tell me one more thing. Because after realizing that my words and my deeds are my seeds, the hearts of people on different grounds wasn't here as well, I had to find out what I wanted to grow. So I said, well God, what am I supposed to call you? They got all these people saying, you know, you Yahweh, you Buddha, you Allah, you this, you Jesus, and what's your real name?
That's right.
He said, I don't want you to get caught up in that. I'm going to tell you what my name is, but I don't want you to get caught up with that. Since you really want to know and I know who you are, I need to tell you so you understand.
That's right.
And I said, I do need to understand. And he said, my name, time can't change. I said, well, what you mean by that? He said, time can change steel into dust. He said, time can change the shape of a side of a mountain and the ocean bottom, but it cannot change the truth. Okay. He said, that's who I am. I'm the truth. Bad and good, I'm the truth.
That's right.
So I started thinking, well, what you mean by that? He said, well, I'm the truth. Because whether it's bad or good, when you choose to make a decision to kill or to steal or to lie or to cheat or to deceive, you make that decision, so you plant that seed, and I may forgive you, but you still got to pay for the growth of it.
That's correct.
And so understanding these things brought me to a whole different perspective about how to deal, because being a comic now, I didn't want to be a preacher anymore. I wanted to be a comic that delivered the message, because every comic that I have ever seen in my life, they always tell you how bad something is. And we laugh. They make jokes of it. But they never, ever tell you how to fix a thing. But I had to come up with, and sitting in front of God, a way to do what I did the way I do it, but get the message that He has been giving me to give out through my gift. It was a conglomeration of me being here, understanding this realm, going there, seeing that realm, then coming back in the transition of it, realizing that, damn, I need to do something that's just me.
Okay.
There's not somebody else, or I'm trying to be Michael Jackson or Richard Pryor or anybody like that. I had to create a whole new genre that I call life coaching comedy. I've been a life coach, I think, for about 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. But prior to that, I had actually been doing it. I did it over in Europe, and the thing is, when you're in America, you need some paperwork to show so people can pay you for that. Now, I'm not saying that I couldn't just do it through comedy, but this is a legitimate business, basically, that I use for therapy.
Okay.
And it's just, for me, every time I go on stage, it's therapy, because I can't, while walking up and down the street, say the things I want to say to people. When I see people doing ignorant or stupid things or things that I would never do, I can't speak to them like I would when I'm on stage, like I do. I get on stage, I can talk about everybody. There's no problem. So my problem is I can't sit around. That's why I stay alone. I don't have anybody around me, very few people. And you would think that, oh, this brother like to be around people. No, I get around people and I do my magic. I observe, I see, and I move things. And I move them particularly where they need to be moved as it relates to who I am and what my legacy is. So I don't go places I ain't got no business going. And I don't be somewhere I ain't got no business being. If it's not relative to who I am and what I'm doing in life, then I don't go.
Okay.
So that's the problem with most people. They don't know what that is. They going, oh, that look good. Man, that sounds like a good idea. Oh, that feel good, you know, and that's how they move. And so it's not, it's a temporary high.
So are you trying to get people to get more in touch with a spiritual concept? Are you trying to get them more to understand who they are? I mean, what role are you playing, whether it be you're in your comedy or you're in the other characters that you may play?
Well, undoubtedly I'm a preacher. I'm not a typical preacher like anybody you ever met or that I've ever met. I just got to know myself maybe 15 years. And I do it because it's a part of what I'm supposed to do. I was a class clown. I love making people laugh, but now I have a reason and a purpose with a message attached to it. So I'm not just planting any kind of seeds. I'm planting the kind of seeds that will multiplicatively come back and be a blessing to whoever is around them, particularly myself if I'm blessed to be here. And if I'm not, at least the legacy of the kind of foundation that I planted would be alive for other people to see. It would yet live. Just like I don't know Dr. King, I don't know Harriet Tubman, I'm not liking myself to them, but they live for something. Even though I don't know them, I know something about them. And that is the essence of, one of the essences of living this life. Building a legacy because you're going to die. Death is guaranteed, life is not. So since we know we're going to die, let's not worry about this, let's live so that if we live like, within our means that God, our gifts or our talents, then we can leave that. The reason that we're here, if we can do that, then we can leave that. It's like Harriet Tubman and, Sarah Breedlove and so many others that I read up on. And they made a statement. And as long as their adult lives, they were doing this. So this seemed to be a calling. Is what I'd like to call. If you're going to be in the church, you can kind of call it a calling. But Martin's gift was speaking the truth. Despite how he lived his life, even though, Jesus himself and the other disciples, they, according to the Bible, they made a lot of mistakes. But how do you anticipate learning or getting to learn anything if you don't ever stumble? I mean, obviously we know it's not right, it's wrong to kill, but if somebody's in your house, that's a whole nother story. So it's about interpretation, but the laws that govern this earth are not. If you plant apple seeds, you're gonna get a tree of apples. If you plant lies, you're gonna get a tree of lies. Those are not open for interpretation. I don't deal with religion. I don't teach religion. I teach spirituality first of all. But secondly, I know it works because here, the people that I talk to, I have this whole methodology I put together in my life coaching comedy. The first 2 hours has to do with you taking, and this, I give this to every person that I feel is qualified or is capable or has the audacity and the intent and the willpower to go ahead and do this thing. I give it to them. Basically, I'll give it to them free because they can't afford to pay for it anyway. No matter money you give me can afford to pay you for that 2 hours. What I'm about to give you now. Because me giving it to you is easy enough, but you doing it is where the power comes in. That's where the soil and the sunshine, and the weather comes in at. I teach them, I say things like, out of 24 hours in a day, how many of those hours do you spend with yourself?
Just looking at the world condition, people that I know, how pretentious they
Knowing
are.
him that he knows the word of God.
You have to be real to yourself, and that's exactly what church is about.
People walk into church, they go through this transformation.
And it really had a beacon of truth to it that I saw in no other movies or really stories that I had really read.
And everybody needs a real live dose of reality.
What's going on in the world, what's going on in church, and what's going on, period. Ask the Reverend point blank.